Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Alisa Slabzinska, and I work for the City of Chicago, Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, BACP. Welcome to the BACP Business Education Workshop Webinar Series. We have adapted our regular business education workshops at City Hall into these webinars until further notice. On behalf of our Commissioner, Rosa Escarino, I want to inform you that business licenses can be processed online where applicable by visiting chicagobusinessdirect.org. And just note that any websites or emails I mention will be posted in the chat box, so you'll be able to reference them there. If you are part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you can get credit for joining this webinar by sending an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. If you want to learn about the program, please visit chicago.gov/businesseducation. To help guide your business and employees during Chicago's reopening process, please visit chicago.gov/reopening. Also, BACP and the City of Chicago's Office of Emergency Management and Communications created ShyBiz Emergency Alerts. You can opt in to receive targeted emergency alerts for the business community. If you are interested, please visit chicago.gov/ShyBizAlerts. And we encourage attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box and send your questions to all panelists. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. And today's webinar will be Growing Your Business in Uncertain Times, presented by InUrban Strategies. And with us today, we have Shelby. Welcome, Shelby.
Thank you, Lisa. It's nice to be here.
Thank you.
All right, so are we ready to get started?
Absolutely. Please.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for inviting me, and it's, as I said, it was a pleasure presenting the material today, and certainly is a big supporter of the educational programs that are offered through BACP, and happy to be a part of it. And so today, we're going to talk about growing your business in uncertain times. And just to give everyone a quick introduction to myself, I'm Shelby Parchman, the managing partner of InUrban Strategies. I have a lot of experience in economic development work in a lot of organizations in the city of Chicago over the past 12 years, looking at ways to strategize and increase economic development activities in the Chicago area. Our four key areas of operation in urban are, number one, strategic planning, which really is our bread and butter in terms of helping organizations come up with more strategic processes to grow. Secondly, we do a lot of program development and delivery for a lot of entities, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. We supply support to access to capital. We work with a lot of lenders, and we even partner with one lender, CRF, to offer PPP loans to small businesses in the Chicago area. And then one of our growing areas is we noticed that a lot of small businesses don't have the needed back office support. So we're coming in with low cost and highly efficient ways to ensure that the small businesses can get a lot of the back office support they need. And during the presentation, we'll talk a little bit about why that is so important. So what do we do at InUrban Strategies? So some of our key projects and clients include Rush University Medical Center, where we work in their supply chain localization initiatives. They call it the Anchor Mission Program. And what we do there is we assist them in locating, identifying, and vetting small businesses on the west side of Chicago for procurement opportunities at Rush. In most instances, the clients that we bring in do not have to go through the normal RFP and bidding process, but we find opportunities at Rush. We connect those businesses with the department heads and usually do a direct sales process in terms of getting them into Rush and making sure they have all the paperwork and necessary things like insurance done so they can be a part of the procurement process at Rush. We also work with DPD, Department of Planning and Development, through Summer Corps, and we provide technical assistance to NOF program participants, and we do that through assisting them in getting loans. And right now we're working with 4 or 5 clients to help them get loans for their NOF project. We work with DPD as well in another program called Cultivate Chicago, where we're helping develop out urban agriculture as a business through DPD. And then one of our other projects is we're working with the organization Family Farm to develop programming that is aimed at helping small businesses, especially those food businesses on the south and west side of Chicago, grow. And so we've been looking at how do we take the network and all the things they have in place now and to develop it into a more comprehensive program that focuses on food businesses in the west side of Chicago, and south and west sides of Chicago. And we've done a great job in building out that program, and more to come about that soon as we are looking now to move the offices and to the west side of Chicago and including a podcast studio. And so let's get into one of the pressing questions that people have, and because I'm sharing the screen, my animations won't work, but we'll just go right through it. So first of all, the question is, and the questions are, right, can I grow my business during a pandemic? But I look at it and say, well, the pandemic is just one of many things. I know we hit the riots last year, and so that caused a lot of businesses to be in turmoil. Then years ago, we had a recession. There was a Great Depression. We have political uncertainty all the time. It's like one president has one set of objectives, a new president has another set of objectives, the Congress and local politicians. And so we have strong stock market. We have a weak stock market. We have strong dollar. We have weak dollar. So the question is always, then how do a business owner manage all of that? And so I look at it and say, we are focusing on a pandemic, but, you can grow your business in any environment. It's just that you have to know how. And so people have done that many times. When the Great Recession hit, some people went out of business. Some people did really well during the pandemic. And we're still in the middle of it, of course. Some people went out of business, but some people did extremely well. And so the point of the matter is that you really have to think more about not just one issue. As you start thinking about developing your business, you have to think about what issues will I face. And that really is all about, some people will call it contingency planning, but I just call it planning. And I spoke about this in an earlier webinar, and that really most businesses, the ones that survive, they have a plan in place where they can quickly adapt to what is going on in the industry and in the marketplace. And I know the term pivot has been overused, and I always say that I live in a no pivot zone because businesses don't pivot, they adapt. And so the best thing to do is have a plan in place where when not so great things happen, there's a place to adapt. But also you have to be really cognizant of what's going on in the marketplace and, where the customer base is going and what's new and what customers aren't doing and not what they're doing. And we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So what I wanted to do then is change the title of my presentation just a little bit. Growing your business in uncertain times, because uncertainty is here all the time. And so any business owner, and I'm sure most of our attendees are either business owners or looking to start a business, any business owner can tell you that there's going to be uncertainty all the time. Even in the organization that I run, as much as we know our customer base well, we have a great customer base. One of the uncertainties that we face is that our clients don't like to pay on time. And so one of the things that we always have to do is make sure we plan for long-term finances. And we know we'll get paid, but it's just that usually getting paid is a process. And so we can't run our business like our clients and customers are going to pay us exactly when we think they should pay us. So that's usually our biggest challenge, is the finances. And so today we have some learning objectives. One is I'm hoping that everyone gains a better understanding of their business model, because we're going to talk about the elements that go into your business model. And one of the key things that I like, because I love finance, and everything that I do, I look for it and say, is there a return on investment? And that is not necessarily a dollar return, but there has to be some type of return on investment if we're going to engage in any type of activities. And then we're going to talk about the key areas of business growth, focusing mainly on finance, operation, marketing, and sales. And then at the end, I'll give you some tips for success and maybe even a few action items. So what I always tell people is that the perspective on things is very crucial, and you really want to think about what you're up against as you're looking to start a business, grow a business. And I use this a lot because I think it's really important that I reiterate this. And this number, 487,000, it varies depending on the source that you get. But this is the number of new businesses that are started every month in the United States. But we know that businesses have a pretty high failure rate, right? So in 3 years, 44% of those businesses have failed. And in 10 years, 71% of those businesses have failed. And so the question would always be is, well, why would you go into business if you know that the failure rate is so high? Part of it is that people go into business for many reasons. And I always say you don't know until you try. And certainly starting a business is a great learning experience. And then let's talk about growing the business in terms of dollars. So only 5% of those businesses actually achieve $1 million or more in revenue. And then of that 5%, only 1% of that 5% actually achieve greater than $25 million in revenue. And so the question is, why is that the case? And I feel that it's the case because there are a lot of reasons that there's the case, but most of it, in terms of it, is that the business that I encounter really don't have growth strategies in place. It's more about the business is just operating and they're being more reactive as opposed to being proactive. So then the question is always, why did you start a business? And, as we look at the failure rates, why would you start a business? And what I hear is a lot of people say they want to earn more money, and that's the reason they go into business. And then others say, I have a passion for what I do. And some say, I have a passion for what I do, and I want to earn more money. So whatever reason it is that you start the business, it's not as important as what do you do to actually achieve that, right? So I tell people everything that I do, I first start with a passion. And I want to figure out how I can earn money with that passion. And so my passion is helping small businesses start, grow, and become successful. And if I happen to earn money doing it, that's really cool. But what I also discovered is that the more passionate you are about things, the easier it is to earn money. And so when you're thinking about it, you start a business, and very rarely are businesses profitable out the gate or have really strong cash flows. And so you really have to love what you do in order to want to stay in there and earn money doing it. And so you think about it, if it's not any fun and you're not earning money, then why are you really subjecting yourself to the trials and tribulations of actually starting a business and trying to grow it? And then the question is, what's the vision, right? So some people, they have the quote unquote side hustle, and I define that as someone who is maybe working a job but have something they love to do on the side. You're a musician, by night, but you're an IT person by day. And so at night you make a few extra dollars, playing at music venues or giving music lessons, and that's okay. That's not a business that you necessarily want to grow. You could grow and you say, hey, my goal is to get out of my main job and to develop this into my side hustle into a real business, and that's cool too. But you have to really think about where you want to be in the business life cycle, and then focus on that. Secondly, there's the lifestyle business, right? And the work that I do, some of the work that I do is actually a lifestyle business. The consulting work that I do it. I have to work in the business. I get paid a salary out of the business. I have employees, and one of these days I want to take away that lifestyle business and actually have it a business that can operate and function without me, because on days like today, I'd rather be somewhere on the beach in the Caribbean as opposed to, and giving a webinar from there as opposed to sitting in the cold in Chicago shoveling snow. What I see too is when I'm working with businesses, I see more of a combination of people who want to do lifestyle businesses and people who want to do local / regional businesses. So especially in the food space, I see there's a lot of consumer packaged good products that I work with companies in developing, and then we help them get local and regional distribution. So and we work with organizations like Whole Foods and KeHE, and helping those businesses scale up, right? And then there's certainly the opportunities to go national and global, and those things take time. And I have one client who it took us about 5 years, but the company is actually global now, and they're doing quite well. But I can tell you that business really started as a side hustle, working during the day as an attorney, started a business on the side, and then skipped the whole lifestyle thing, went into the local regional markets, and now in the national global markets, and Whole Foods, nationally, Costco, Target, all of the national brands, and in some global markets. So, and it takes time, but it takes a lot of planning. And so the question I always ask business owners, are you really ready to scale? And it's not as simple as, yes, I am, but there has to be a plan behind that. And it's not a plan that you're going to, start a business today and tomorrow you're in Costco or Walmart. And I know people have asked me that. I started a beverage business years ago, and 3 weeks after launching the products in Walgreens, people are like, well, why aren't you in Costco and Walmart? And it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of resources to be able to jump into that. So scaling is not something that happens overnight. It takes a deliberate effort and a growth plan to do that. And that's what we'll be talking about in the presentation today. So the next question is, why do companies fail to grow? And I touched a little on these points, and we're going to go, as we go through the presentation, we'll hit those points with some examples as well. Number one is no clear or realistic vision. And this is one of the things I see out of business owners all the time. It's like, I'll give me $10,000 and I'll turn into a $20 million a year business, overnight. And that's not realistic. And that's, and there's certainly no plan to do it. The lack of cash, which is always where I find most businesses in need of and always strapped up. And it's always difficult to find that cash. And then really just no real plan. It's just, I'm out here doing it and I'm hoping things happen. One of the other big ones is just really understanding the needs of the marketplace. And so one of the things I try to get people to understand is that your problem is not the problem of the marketplace. And but a lot of people develop products, goods, and services around that. For example, if you look at, say, this notion of gluten-free. So a person has celiac disease and say, well, there are no good gluten-free products out there, so I'm going to develop my own gluten-free products. And they develop those products for their taste. And then they put them out in the marketplace, and they find that there's a lot of competition already. The product just doesn't taste that good to anyone else. And so they never really stop to think about what is the true need in the marketplace, and then what value that you're bringing to the marketplace. And so what you end up having is products that are, they're cool, they're gluten-free, but there's really not a place in the market for it. And now you're stuck with trying to sell something that not many people want. And then just a corollary to that, when I started the beverage business, all the products that I developed, I didn't like them. I didn't drink them. I thought they were absolutely horrible, but the marketplace loved them. When we were developing products, they would come to me, the formulation team would come to me and it's like, how do you like it? I was like, it's pretty horrible. But that's not the decision for me to make. I said, take it out to the marketplace and see what they say. And what it turned out is that we had the marketplace jumping all over saying these are some of the best beverages they had. And so, because the marketplace really determines what's going to sell. It's not your local people. It's not me. It's not my family. It's not my friends, but it's a larger marketplace that has to accept your products and your services in order for you to grow. And then there's lack of infrastructure. And usually that is more about, as I talked about earlier, is the back office support and really understanding what's coming into your company, what's going out, what are you actually paying for stuff? Because a lot of people don't understand that. They don't even truly understand their cost of goods because they don't have the infrastructure in place to understand how much they're really paying for stuff. Attempting to grow too quickly is another one. I've seen it happen where, someone came and said, hey, I got accepted into 300 Jewel Oscos. And the company failed because it takes a lot to be able to service that many stores. It takes a lot of money. And so instead of saying, hey, let's start with 20, work our way up to 40, it's like, okay, you're going to be in 200 stores. You've made it. And it's in many instances for small businesses, it's the worst thing that happened to them. And then, of course, there's this whole thing of being scalable. And so some businesses, the model is just not scalable for many reasons. And so a good example, and I like to use products as an example because those are the ones that I work with mostly. And so what I've seen happen is someone develop a product in their kitchen, a food product in their kitchen. And so they went to, say, the grocery store and bought some boxes of whatever frosting or filling to do it with. And then they come and they make this product, and the product is actually really good. And then it's time to scale up and say, okay, now I'm in Whole Foods, and Whole Foods is going to carry me, and I have to sell this product. Now your cost of goods is so high because all the products you buy, you purchase at the grocery level, and you never ever thought about what it takes to manufacture a product on a larger scale. And so you can't do that by buying products out of a grocery store. And so then what ends up happening is you may not be able to find those specific products that you want at larger scale. And then secondly, the flavor, the formulations, and the taste may be different. And so these are the things that you really have to think about if you're saying, hey, if I'm looking for this, business that I want to scale to a regional level or to a national level, what does it take to scale? And that should start when you're developing products and you're developing services. And so, being a one-man shop or one-person shop, that's not a scalable business. So now how do I, even if you're in the service business, right? So you can say, I want to be this landscaper and I want to have a huge landscaping business and I want to hire a bunch of people. But, there are a lot of things that you have to do to get to that point. You have to have customers. You have to have people in place who are doing the work. You have to have the logistics of getting them from point A to point B efficiently. So there's a lot that goes into that. And if you can't do that, then it's going to be so difficult making money if you can't scale. And so, see, this one, the answer was not supposed to be on here, but that's okay. And so the other one part of it is you want to know, I always ask people, how do you really earn revenue? And I've done some, as I talk about marketing, I put up some companies and I say, well, how do they really earn their money? And one example was years ago when Ford Motor Company was the largest holder of mortgages in the country through their Associates Financial. And so most people thought that Ford Motor Company earned their money by selling cars. And it's like, no, there's very little profit in selling a new car. But Ford had the Associates Financial with which they have held mortgages. And also they have Ford Motor Credit where they finance the purchase of cars. And so Ford, actually, they were in the money business. Cars are the commodity but they're really making their money on actually lending money, which is a good business in most cases. And so how does Tesla make money? And that's the same thing. We look at a car company like Tesla, and we know they do other things like fly rockets to the moon and stuff like that, but they're known for their cars, right? And so their fastest growing business is not the Model S and the Model 3 and the Model Y and whatever new model they're coming out with. A lot of their profits right now come from selling environmental credits that enable some of their truck making rivals to avoid the big emissions fines, right? So they're selling environmental credits. And so you think like, wow, I never know that could be a business, but with Tesla, Elon Musk figured it out. There are multiple ways of making money in a business, and you have to figure it out. And sometimes what you're selling is not necessarily the easiest way to make a profit. And this is a really cool business model. And I actually used that something very similar years ago when I had a laboratory supply business, and we came up with some technology that a lot of our competitors did not have. And so what they ended up doing is coming to us and saying, hey, we need you to make this product for us. And so that business model was every time my competitors sold a product, I actually made money. And so as you can see, Tesla has found a way to make money off of not just selling electric cars, but making money off selling gasoline-powered or diesel-powered trucks because their rivals need those environmental credits. So the point and the take-home lesson here is to don't just think of your business as the business that you're doing. Think of your business as an opportunity to earn money in the marketplace, and how can you earn that money in the marketplace? And the most important part of it is, I know a lot of people think, we hear this concept, multiple streams of revenue, but these multiple streams of revenue, they have to be related somehow, because if you're out trying to do many things that are not related, you're putting you don't have the time and energy and the effort to put it into those things that, efficiently enough to earn money off all of them, and you find yourself spinning your wheels. So what you will find is that most companies who are looking at their multiple streams of revenue, it's always something that's really related to what they're doing, but not necessarily what they're doing. So as we see Tesla selling environmental credits, we see, and especially most of the major automobile manufacturers, they sell financing. The financing is where they make their money. But we can also look at companies, say, like a Best Buy. And in 1 year, their profit came from not selling, electronics, but from selling extended warranties. And so, and that's an easy related business that they can get into. So as you think about your business, really think about how you can make money outside of that business. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about, and I mentioned this, most of the programs that I work on and programming that my organization develop for other entities, we focus on 5 key areas of business growth: finance, marketing, sales, operation, and leadership. Today, we're going to focus only on 4, and each one of these could be a class all by themselves. So what I want to do is just touch more broadly on these topics, and somewhere down the road, maybe I'll get invited back to talk more specifically on them, because and also everybody's business is different. And so to me, take the concepts that are learned here and think about how you can apply those to your business. And so I mentioned that return on investment, right? So every activity that we talk about today, we're also going to focus on and think about what's the return on investment. So whatever you do in your business, this is the first question you should ask yourself. And honestly, I do it. If it comes down to spending $30, I'm like, why are we spending this $30? What's in it for us? I know it may sound like, well, you sure are nickel and diming, but when you're a business owner, those things add up. And so we just want to make sure as I run the business, we understand what our return on investment is. And I know just this morning I'm looking at the finances in one of the businesses I operate, and I saw a bill for Federal Express for $750. And I immediately sending out emails at 5 o'clock this morning to everyone's like, why are we spending $750 on Federal Express shipping? And so the answer came back that, that's something we ship to a client and they covered the shipping. I said, okay, I can relax now. But having that type of, understanding everything that's going out and everything that's going in is really important. And that's why it's important to keep track of your finances. Right. And we always know that in finance, it takes money to make money. And so the question is, how do we get that money? Right. And so if you're trying to fund your growth in your business, I look at it, there's a lot of ways to do it. Number one, personal capital. And that's where everybody starts. Right. I'm going to save up a few dollars. I'm going to figure out how to bootstrap, and I'm going to start this business. Right. And then some of us can go to our friends and families. And I know in the typical investment world, we call it the 3 F's, the friends and families and fools, but I decided to leave the third one off. But it's just that when you're really talking, when you're looking at starting a business, you have to start with what are your local resources. And some of us don't have that ability, right? And so what we do next is we look at how much money we can borrow. Notice I didn't put grants up there. We're going to talk about that. But just in general, grants are not the way to go in terms of starting a business. It's just that there's not enough opportunities out there to be able to for everyone to say, okay, here's a logical and viable way for me to start a business. So it usually starts with borrowing money. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Then as you look to grow, but investment capital becomes important as well. And some people can do it with it, and some people can do it without it. I have one client that built a multi-million-dollar business without any investment capital. And I have clients that have built multi-million-dollar businesses with investment capital. So you don't have to do that. And what most people don't realize, investment capital is some of the most difficult capital to get. And it also is, it's very costly because you're not paying an interest rate, but you're giving up part of your business. And so I'm working with my team on actually an investment. And the company that we're looking at investing in, they think it's just as easy as we go in, we look at their finances, and we believe their business plan, and we write a check. And that's not the way it happens. They're like, well, why aren't you guys writing a check? It's like, well, we really need to understand what you're doing and do a lot of due diligence. And, the deal may or may not happen, and that's always the case. And then the last thing I talk about is funding your growth on net profit. And so the more profitable you are, the less you have to rely on personal capital, friends, family, loans, and investment capital. And, it seems like that's usually one of the hardest things for most business to get at is like, how do I get to that net profit? But once again, if you start thinking about everything you do should have a return on investment, then if you do that incrementally, then you will see a net profit at some point. At least I hope you would. So when we talk about loans, some people don't have houses. I tell them that in a startup business, credit is the best asset you can ever have. It makes it so much easier to borrow money, and it makes it easier to borrow money at a low interest rate. And so credit. So I'm going to do just a really quick thing on credit because I run into this all the time. We help a lot of people get loans, and we end up having to have these tough conversations with people, which I have to have later today, about why they didn't get a loan. And so it starts with credit score. And, even if these lenders say, we don't really pay attention to credit score, trust me, they do. And because the credit score is an indication of how you value the money that you make and how you spend it and what you value in life. And so if it won't show up in it shows up in the credit score, but if they say, okay, we won't even look at the credit score, it's going to show up on your credit report. And it's going to show up in your activities and the amount of money that you have available. So exceptional credit, 800 to 850, that's a nice thing to strive for. But I tell people as long as you're above 680, you're in pretty good shape in terms of being able to borrow money. But when you start getting into the very poor and the fair credit, it becomes a lot more difficult. Now, 67% of Americans have a FICO score of 670, and the good range is 670 is to 739. But we're also going to talk about some hard truths about that as well in the coming slides. And then, so what affects my credit score? And so, as you can see, 35% of it is payment history. Do you pay your bills on time? So if I'm a lender, I want to know that, right? Are you paying your bills on time? Because if you're not, why would you pay me on time? And so, but if it happened a couple of years ago and you're in better shape now, a lot of the lenders that we work with will take that into consideration. But it's still like if you're not paying your bills on time, why would anyone give you a loan, right? And then the next big factor is the amounts owed, right? And that's really important because a lot of people have a lot of credit cards that they spend money that they have like high interest rates and they are close to their credit limit. And so, and also because I want to throw in just a quick note of warning is that I know there are a lot of people and companies out there advertising business credit. And what I've seen is that most of this business credit is through credit cards. And so what ends up happening, and I've seen this happen, that people get $100,000 to $200,000 in credit card debt. And they start off with this very low teaser rate, 0% interest. And then 6 months to a year later, it's at 25% interest. And that pretty much wipes you out of business. So you also really have to be careful about the credit that you have and to work well with the credit that you have. So in effect, to help your credit score increase, you really want to be, especially on credit cards, you want to be in the range of 15 to 30% utilization rate. I try to stay around 0 to 5 in terms of that. But sometimes we need credit, right? The other thing is the length of credit history. So if you have things that are on your credit report, the longer they're on there, the more it improves your score. So years ago, I got a JCPenney credit card for $300. With a $300 credit limit. I don't even use it. I've never used it. But since it's old, I just don't want to take it off. And it pales in comparison to my other credit cards. But I figure if it's that old and it's staying there, and I never ask for a credit line increase because I don't shop at JCPenney, but it's it's just one of those things. Just keep it on there, even if you don't use it. And in some instances, like Target credit card, they ask you to use it every now and then, otherwise they'll drop you. So what I'll do is when I get a note from them threatening to drop me from because I don't use my credit card, I go buy something for $15 and then pay it off when the bill comes out. And now the clock starts all over again. So why is credit super important? Because if it's bad, you're going to spend a lot of money. And I just use an example here. If you go in to buy a car, and I've seen instances worse, but in this example, the difference in interest rate can be, from 3% up to 17% with poor credit, and that's if you can get a loan there. And but you're looking at it, you're paying an extra $5,300 over 3 years for a $25,000 car, and so that's $5,300 you could be putting in your business, and that is the cost of credit, poor credit. And then knowledge is power. So I'm going to go through these slides right quick, but this is the most important one that I want to talk about. So back in 2000, right after the Great Recession, and this is the chart on the right. And as you can see, when it came to lending, after the recession, large businesses, they were able to get access to capital. But after that Great Recession, small business loans and micro lending went down, right? And then let's fast forward to today. Approval rates on small business loans have plunged in all the major categories, right? And so the best access to capital right now is the PPP program. And what we're finding is that we're starting to work with banks. Many of them are just not lending right now. And so that is really one of the issues that small businesses face, right? Not only if you have poor credit, and then you come in and there's a tough lending environment because you're a small business. And that makes it much more difficult to get dollars. All right, and so here's another thing, and I talk about this because we're in the Chicago area and we see this a lot. And so these are the things that being armed with this information is good to know. So when there was a study done, and what they found is that in low-income areas, businesses are like the lower income of an area, businesses are less likely to receive a loan. And then if you go to a area that has a high percentage of minority residents, the businesses are less likely to receive loans. Then if you're a business in a low-income area, you're less likely, if you have the same business, you're less likely to receive a loan than that same business in a high-income area. And then businesses in majority white areas are more likely to receive loans than businesses in minority areas of the same income level. So what is that message saying? The message is saying that it's very difficult getting a loan, and if you live, say, in a underserved or underrepresented community in Chicago, it becomes even more difficult. And we know this, and things haven't changed much. And so this is why you have to have all your finances in order to give you the best chance. And the last thing I want to do is talk about, and this is why I want people to really understand credit, because this is the major way of financing growth for your business, that you have to be aware of what good credit means. And so back when the mortgage market was on fire, people who actually had good credit were getting subprime loans because they didn't know any better. And so that's when I say knowledge is power. So a lot of the instances where people lost their homes because of these adjustable rate mortgages that went sky high, they didn't even have to be in an adjustable rate mortgage. So as you work with any of the organizations that you work with, including like the SBDCs, the MBDCs, really, think about these things as and try to get more education about what it really takes to borrow money and how to position yourself best for doing that. And so I know there's a lot of help in that, and that's really where you need to be. And so then just the last thing about credit score is that the credit scores are higher. And when we talk about that 670 average, it's higher in white communities as it is than it is non-white communities. So the average credit score is 700 versus 550 in minority communities. And so that's another thing to say, hey, let's start really thinking about how do we improve those credit scores. And there are a lot of ways of doing it, but the first thing is to pay your bills on time. And similar results when the Texas Department of Insurance did that as well. All right. So how do we now get onto business, and how do we increase our profits, right? So I have this big bag of Lay's potato chips, which says a party size, but I look at it and it says it's 13 ounces. I would say about a third of that bag is potato chips, and the other 2/3 is air. And so what you'll find is that one of the ways some of the larger companies actually increase their profits is they give you the same size bag, but they just keep giving you less and less items in the bag. And potato chips are a great example of how that has happened. So if you want to increase your margins, you can raise prices, right? Sometimes customers are price sensitive, so you can't always do that. So the other thing is you decrease your cost of goods. And so in this instance, Lay's just decreased the number of chips in there. And there's other ways you can do it. You can find ways of purchasing cheaper, make the processes more efficient. There's so many ways of doing that in your business, but the take-home message here is that you really have to, in order to increase margins, you have to do one or two things. You have to get more for the product you're selling or make it cost less. And in a perfect situation, how about doing both? You can also sell more products at a profit. And so now we're looking at how do I gain new customers, or how do I sell more to my existing customers? Because if someone's an existing customer, they're easier to sell than bringing on new customers. So there can always be growth in your customer base, and so look for that as well. Sell fewer products. It's like, what do you mean? How do I increase profits by selling fewer products? A great example, the chicken sausage company that we own, they had 12 products. Most of them weren't selling. It cost a ton of money to produce those products, store those products. They didn't sell. We threw them out, and we lost money. So we went down to 3 products. We're making money. So more is not always better when it comes to selling products. And you think about it, even if you have a product, the more you offer, the more you have to support. So you have to create packaging, labels, and you have to have inventory and all this other stuff. So it sounds counterintuitive, but you will find that some of the most successful companies don't have a lot of products. Decrease expenses. So and that's really inside of your business and more your operations side. And look at ways that you can decrease expenses. Like me, unless somebody's paying for it, there's no way we're going to spend $700 in 1 month shipping things through Federal Express. But because one of the things we think about is even if somebody says, hey, we need something shipped, you have to really convince me that it has to be absolutely positively has to be there overnight before I'm spending my money doing it. And then other related revenue streams, and I talked about that using the Tesla example, and that there could be other related revenue streams that you haven't really thought about, and to think more about that. All right, and then I just put a list of funding resources here. Some of the ones that we work with, CNI, a great group of people to work with, Community Reinvestment Fund. They have various loans as well, and we've partnered with them to do the PPP program. So, and that's still active. Leaders Bank is a bank in Oak Brook who likes to do micro lending and to small businesses on the south and west side of Chicago. Allies for Community Business, I get used to that. It used to be Axion. They just did a rebranding. Huntington Bank is another one that we work with for SBA loans. But there are also various community banks and credit unions. And so what you have to do is really tap into that resource and develop that relationship for your business that works best for you. And so we have actually, as an organization, find that we go with the big bank, Chase, for various reasons, but not to say that they're the best bank out there. They're the best for us. But, a lot of times these smaller community banks are best for small businesses because they tend to be more small business friendly. Okay, so then we'll talk quickly about operations, and that's putting your money to work. So one of the things that I always tell people to do, and this is when I was in the pharmaceutical industry, developing out manufacturing processes for pharmaceuticals, to know your operations. Most small businesses go into really inefficient operations, and it's like what you do, and the lab, we call it bench scale, pilot, and then process, right? So what most people do is bench scale, and they try to go right to process with a bench scale, and it's not going to work. So if you're a food business, you're going from tabletop to commercial kitchen to, process operations, right? And so what you do in your kitchen and developing is not going to translate into a medium scale process, and it definitely won't translate into a larger scale process. Continuing education. That's one of the things I'm really big on. And, attending webinars like this and gathering as much knowledge as you can is really important. Leveraging technology. So what we look at is everything that we do is pretty much automated. We measure, we track, and we crunch numbers to make sure that we're staying on track and that we're staying true to the things that we're trying to accomplish. And financial records. And unfortunately, if I had to give most small businesses a grade, they get an F grade in this category. And so, and I say this because that is the way that you can be sure of not getting a loan or getting a loan delayed forever. In some instances, we've had to go back and recreate 3 years of finances for businesses because they didn't do that. If you start off and just do it on a monthly basis using any program like QuickBooks, Xero, there are free ones, and there are ones that cost $20, $30 a month. But you really have to keep track of the finances. So if you are, number one, trying to get a loan, that's important. Number two, if you want investment capital, that's important. But number three, you want to know where you are. You want to do your taxes right. That's important. And the financial records really tell you the health of your business. And so you really want to focus on that. And then performance measures. Set goals for your business. Make sure they're realistic. And then figure out, how do you measure those goals? And once a quarter, take a step back and say, are we really on track here? Are these goals meaningful, right? And so what we do, and all the businesses that we work with, every business has to develop 5 key goals that measure the success of their business. And so, and that's why I encourage everyone to do. Set up 5 goals that you feel that measure the success of your business, the growth of your business, and then make sure they're realistic. And then start tracking against those. Revisit those once a month out the gate. And then as you get comfortable with it, revisit them once a quarter to make sure that you're staying on track. But this is really important. And I find that most businesses, they just throw numbers out there. I want to have $1 million in sales, or they even say, let me go to $1 million. I just want 7 figures. What does that really mean? Is that really doable, right? And if it is, then what is the plan to get there? But at the end of the day, a business is measured by the success and its performance, right? Revenue is one way, but there are other goals that you can have for your business, and some of ours are revenue, but others are what impact did we have on small business in the Chicago area? Were we able to help someone? And so we look at it. We have goals for us. We have goals that we need to set for us to deliver our goods and services, and it's not always about money. And then we're going to jump to marketing. I'm going to spend a little more time here because I feel that, this is another area where people and businesses fail. First of all, we look at it and say, what's the difference between marketing and sales? And so this is a slide I like to use, and I modified it a little bit, but I have 4 vehicles on this slide, right? And 2 of the 4 are highly recognizable. And we see the Lincoln Navigator and the Cadillac Escalade. And of course, these are vehicles that are mass marketed. You drive down the street, more than likely you're going to see 1, 2, or 10 of them. You see them advertised all over the place. And so they're just highly recognizable. And the reason there is because there's a huge market for those vehicles. And so they understand you just splash it out there and, people will come, right? And it's really about getting noticed. And then I say 2 of these 4 vehicles are known by those who either A, can afford them, or B, are automobile enthusiasts. And so I'm an automobile enthusiast. I can't afford them, but I certainly like looking at fast cars and the luxury exotic cars. And so, and I tell people, it's like, if you don't necessarily know these cars, and most people don't. When I put up a slide and say, can you guess these cars? Very rarely has anybody actually guessed it, right? And so, but that's also by design, because these are not mass marketed cars. And so what the message here is to understand who your market is and what it takes to reach them. And so where did I find these 2 cars pictures? I found them in Robb Report. It's a magazine for luxury goods and houses and things like that. It's easy to find them there because they know that that's the target market they have. I couldn't find a Escalade or a Navigator in the Robb Report unless, and sometimes they will have one, but it's going to be like a souped up $500,000 one, right? So my third point is, if you convince me to buy either the Navigator or the Escalator, that's when it comes into sales, right? Because sales is really about closing the deal, making sure that the customer understands the features and benefits and why should they choose the Navigator over the Escalade, right? And that's where salesmanship comes in. And so I always say that most small business owners focus a whole lot on sales on marketing and very little on sales. And so that's really where the money's made. And so, and I've talked about this in other presentations I've done, but most of the businesses, the most successful businesses that I've had and continue to have are one of the businesses that don't do a lot of marketing. And in terms of the traditional marketing outlets, channels like social media and stuff like that. But our marketing is turned into more networking, getting to know people, because we know that if people understand the value of the work that we do, we don't have to call people, they call us. And that's what we continue to do. We continue to perform, and we see that our business is always increasing. And then the last point I have to make is that since I'm certainly not in the market to spend $1.23 million for the Pagani or $300,000 for the Spiker, I don't care about any type of salesmanship you have. You can be the greatest salesperson in the world. you won't convince me to buy it. So you also have to understand how much your market is willing to pay, because I can love these cars and love to want to drive them, but if I can't afford it, you're wasting your time talking to me. So in anything, so if your client base is not interested or somebody's not interested in it, it's really hard to convince someone to buy something they really have no interest in. All right, so marketing for growth. There are a lot of ways to do it. There's the 4 P's of marketing: the product, promotion, placement, pricing, right? And so when you start looking at things, they're like, how can you jump into marketing, and what are the good ways that you can do it to sell products, right? So usually most people jump on social media, right? And it's like, let me, get an Instagram page, Facebook posting. What's becoming more popular is people are calling and paying influencers to, they have a lot of followers and show my product, and then everybody will come buy it, right? Public relations is another good one. I know that today there's been a lot of press about supporting small businesses, and so you see I've seen a lot of my friends and business owners getting press on the news, TV stations and news outlets and things like that, which is really cool. Product demos are a good way, and if you have a product that you sell, like in a grocery chain, we've done this before. We sell 1 case a week of one product. If we do a demo, we sell 2 cases in a day. And so, but that also is getting the word out about and getting people to try your product. Marketing collateral, anything else related like flyers and business cards and things like that, which are in some instances, depending on the marketplace, that works well. And then even just choosing your location could be a good way of really thinking about how do you grow your business, because location can be very important. So then talk a little bit about measuring the return on investment on social media. And so one of the things that I know a lot of people that I've worked with, they don't really look at this. They don't think about, they do social media for the purpose of just social media, right? And so it's like, all right, here we go. Let me just keep posting the same thing over and over again. And so there's one in this client that I have, and they just post the same message over and over. And I'm like, that message is tired and it's not resonating with your consumers. And so you really have to think about that. Is that message really resonating? What's really happening? But for most people, because they take this really approach, a shotgun approach, I call it, to social media, they don't really think about what is it really gaining them. And so the question is, what are you trying to get out of that? One of the other things is publishing content. That, through blogs and things like that, I've seen that's been very helpful in terms of driving sales for people. But most people don't have a social media strategy. And so that's really important as well, to really sit down. There are some low-cost social media experts that help you really just to develop out a strategy and a campaign that you can actually, as a business owner, put together. I know with one of our clients, we have a full-blown social media calendar, and there are certain posts that go out, and a lot of times we just develop those posts a couple of months in advance, because we know where we're going with all of that. But just to make sure that you have a strategy if you're looking for some type of return on investment. And then, what are your business objectives, right? And how is this social media work and marketing that you're doing? How do you really want it to affect your business and the big picture of your business? I would assume that at the end of the day, you want it to translate into more customers and more sales, right? And so the question is that happening? And if it's not happening, then what are you going to do about it? And in some instances, people feel that I have to be on social media. And the answer is you really don't. It's just that you have to come up with a different way of marketing. And it really is business dependent. And so I have these slides, and I'm not going to belabor the points and spend a lot of time on it, but you really have to make social media make sense, right? And so the point here is that most of the people really don't know what they're trying to measure and what they're trying to get out of social media, or they just don't measure what's going on. And so, so it's really important that you figure out if you're going to do anything, because social media takes a lot of time. And I know some people get up very early in the morning, posting on Facebook and Instagram, and I go to bed, 11 o'clock at night, and they're still posting. And so the question is that really getting you anywhere? And if it's not, then what do you need to do to get somewhere? Because time is money, right? You spend a lot of time just posting. And just some of the surveys, most marketers have a big challenge in measuring the return on investment in social media. And so I get back to it and say, if there's something that you can't measure the return on, then, question, why are you doing it, right? And so as you start thinking more about marketing, really ask yourself, why am I doing this? What can I expect from it? How will it help my business grow? And then look at the work that you're doing and saying, is it really helping my business grow? Are there other activities I can do? Instead of posting on social media, is there somebody I can call and make a sale to, as opposed to trying to hit this mass market who may or may not be interested in what I'm doing? So you have to realize, too, social media, people on social media are very distracted, and they have they're always, going on to the next best, greatest thing. So just keep that in mind as you're developing out your social media strategy. And then the numbers never lie. And that's what I always get back to. I love my science and I love my data. I love measuring things. And, this slide is saying like 58% of the firms, they measure their engagement, right? And so most people think that is so important, right? It's like I have, a million followers, right? So are those million followers giving you $1? Because that would be really good, right? Or do you have a million followers who are not very engaged and, you're not making money off of them. So what you're really doing is just entertaining 1 million people for free. So let's think about really, if you're going to do these activities, these social media activities, then what is it really getting you, right? And so what I look at it, years ago, I watched this video from Seth Godin, and it was like how to get your ideas to spread, and I like to use it in marketing. And he talked about how everybody's in the fashion business back then when he produced that video. But today, everybody's in the entertainment business. You think about it. All of social media is just entertainment. And so no matter what you're doing, what product or service you're selling, you're trying to capture the attention of people. And the way you do that is you capture their attention by giving them something that makes them want to stop, look, and pay attention, watch your video, listen to, read about your product and things like that. But the other side of it is, most people don't really measure the important things, right? And so let's get back to it, and like the number 4 in here, the conversion rate. That's the most important thing to me. Out of all the social media activities, how have you converted that to dollars, right? It's cool. I got a ton of likes. People click my page. I have more people, right? All of this great stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to grow your business, did you convert any of these activities to some type of revenue that you can link back to those activities? And so all that being said, and this is something that you can do with any part of your business, and that is the SMART goals, right? They have to be very specific. If not, I just want to increase the number of people who click on my site, right? Or click-throughs. I want to grow from this number to that number, and this is how I want to do it, right? It has to be measurable, right? Measurable. So it can't be, and it can't be just we're just going to increase it. Put a number on that and understand how you get to that number. Attainable, which I talked about earlier. Are these things achievable, or are you just making up numbers? And it's okay to make up numbers, to come up with a number that doesn't seem like it's great. Everybody's always looking for these grandiose growth goals, but incremental growth is really good too. Are these things relevant to your business, and can you do it in a timely fashion? Do it with marketing. Do it with finances. Do that with operations. And just make sure, but the point is just make sure you do it, because you'll discover there's a lot of important things that you may have forgotten about and not thought about as you look to grow your business. All right, so then we're going to get to sales, getting the money that you need to grow. It so happened as I woke up this morning, an article hit me, and it was saying like, where did all the people go, and where are the opportunities? And so during the pandemic, there was a mass exodus to the suburbs. And so now, they're saying, the article was saying that people are actually now buying, the suburban businesses are growing because there was an influx of people out of the city into the suburbs. And so there are new opportunities, right? And so the same thing is like if people have food businesses, one of our businesses, it was all around, food service, right? And so we were in restaurants and hot bars at Whole Foods and things like that. And where did all the people go? They left. They didn't come into Whole Foods, and Whole Foods actually, took out their hot bar. We had a good growing business at the University of Chicago. The students left. So what do we do as a business, right? And so we have to find other sales channels. So we sat down and we discussed it, and what we ended up doing is convincing Whole Foods, because we don't have a product for retail. So we convinced Whole Foods to carry our products in their meat department, right? So we went from deli, which stopped buying us, and saying, hey, why don't we just let the people cook it themselves instead of putting it on the hot bar? And that actually worked. And so now, as soon as our price negotiations are over, our products will be in the regional Whole Foods. You can buy them behind the meat counter, which to us is a great way of going, because now we don't have to develop retail packaging. We don't have to develop a lot of marketing, because we're pretty much going to be the only meat there, the chicken sausage meat there, that people can buy. And so that actually puts us in a much better position than being next to like the Amy Lou's and the Adele's and things like that. So there are opportunities to grow. And so what you have to start doing is thinking more strategically about where that growth is. And certainly, because one sales channel closed doesn't mean that another one hasn't opened. So the businesses I found who did really well during the pandemic found where those sales channels went. And they were ahead of the curve and ahead of the game in terms of being able to get into those channels and grow their business. So some people, online business increased dramatically. I had one client I was talking to, and she does more, thrifting and fashion stuff. And we had a discussion last week, and she was saying, well, my business is just flying off the charts now. And even during they like to do get-togethers. She said even during the pandemic, people were like, let's get together. And so that's when you know that people are really in tune to your business and you're in tune with your clients. And so we're going to start getting close to the end here, but the last thing in terms of sales, I want to talk about two things. One is the value proposition. And so these are some of the words that I've heard from people, and you really need to add more to it, because a lot of times, and I had one client we were working with, and we were saying, okay, here's how you want to do it, and you want to set up this. They're trying to get more members into one of their programs, and I said, so here's what we're going to do. And they say, we don't have a value proposition. And it's like, okay, if you don't have a value proposition, why are you trying to sell something, right? And so a lot of business owners don't really think about the value that they're bringing to their customers. Once again, I talked about this earlier, not the value that you bring to yourself, but the value that you bring to your customer. And that could be totally different from what you expect. So I always hear our prices are lower than the competitors. That is so boring. When someone says that, I said, you're going to be out of business fast, because competitors can eat you alive. But, the better one is knowing that our customers are price sensitive. We try to offer the best value at the lowest possible price while striving for maximum profitability. That is saying that you're not trying to be the lowest cost product. That's saying that you're very sensitive to what your customers' needs are, but you're also very sensitive to your business needs. And so what I found is that most people are just very sensitive to their customers' needs and think all their customers need is a low price. And that doesn't always cut it. Our products or services are the best. I hear that, right? That's not what you want your customers to hear. Everybody says that. Who doesn't have the best product? Who doesn't have the best services? My take on it is we take pride in the quality of goods and services that we offer to our customers. We're constantly working to improve our offerings based on customer feedback and market needs, right? And so the emphasis is on customer feedback. What do they say? And the market needs, what do they want? And so that's that's when your product, because you don't necessarily have to have the quote unquote best product that you feel is in the marketplace. You have to have the best product for your customer. And, I get back to an organization like McDonald's, and I would shudder to think that anyone would say McDonald's has the best hamburgers they ever tasted. In my humble opinion, they don't. However, they have the best delivery of hamburgers than anyone, right? They have that down to a science, and they know what their customers want, right? Their customers want, they want to walk in there and say, give me a Big Mac combo meal, and then after you pay, somebody's giving you a Big Mac combo meal and you're on your way. So that's really what they're looking at in terms of the customer experience. And it's not necessarily because you can't make the best hamburger like that, but you can make the best customer experience, and that's what their customers need. We make things easier for you, but that's really saying that you understand your customer needs and you have systems in place to enhance that experience, then rely on you. And then taking ownership of customer results. And this is where we work really well, and this is our pride, is that we look at our customers as an extension of their business. And so in most instances, we're treated like we're employees and colleagues and that we're on the same team. And so that really helps us grow our business inside our customers. All right, and then we're going to talk about 5 things, the appeal. So the first one is like, what are you appealing to? And so we see this all the time. And number one is like appeal to fear, right? So fear appeals focus on the negative outcomes that can happen because action or inaction, right? And I suggest reading this book called Bottled and Sold because it tells us how how the marketers started selling bottled water to people who really don't necessarily need bottled water. And then in many instances, bottled water is not as good as the tap water. So that's a good read in terms of marketing and how you can sell fear as a motivator. And I have seen one person post on Facebook a lot about a product that's heart healthy, right? And that's her constant message. My product's heart healthy, heart healthy, heart healthy. And I'm saying like that's a very boring way of describing your product. But when you really think about it, and I say the extreme is to say like, my product is healthy, and if you don't use it, you're going to drop dead from a heart attack, right? So now I'm scared. Now I say, well, maybe I need to think about this. But when you're saying it's heart healthy, everything's healthy, right, in some way, shape, or form. And so, but you really have to give me more of a reason to say, okay, I want to try it. And usually the health side, people use that as a motivator, right? Humor is really cool because it gets people thinking about it. And you Chicago people watch TV. One of the absolute horrible commercial is the Eagle Insurance commercial, where the eagle stands on a car and drops down an egg or something. I just think the worst commercial I've ever seen, but I can't forget that commercial, right? So you don't have to be the best. You just have to be memorable, and humor usually creates that connection, right? And then the rational appeal to the practical side. This is boring, but it works a lot of times, and it really depends on what you're selling and what the customer is looking for. I know when I was selling laboratory, products for, purifying pharmaceutical compounds, there's nothing humorous about that, but it certainly appealed to more of the technical side of people, telling them how this product would solve a lot of the issues they have, and I can help show them how that is. And so, and I was a very successful salesperson at that. So then, certainly sex and sensuality, and it works both ways. It captured attention, but it's funny and the study showed that it seldom promotes product consumption. And so I remember the Miller Lite commercials, and that's focused on men, right? And you have scantily clad women, and like you open a Miller Lite, and all of a sudden all these women come out. And I tried that; it never worked. But also, think about it. Miller Lite is one of the worst beers. If you're a pure beer drinker, who wants a watered down beer? And so, while the commercials were entertaining, didn't necessarily drive a lot of people to want to buy it. And then, I was watching a perfume commercial, and, it's, this is how they get women, right? And it's like, you use this perfume, your life becomes, more of a spa. You're on a spa on an island, and all of a sudden, the handsome man, chiseled man comes up, and all is well with the world. And I can imagine that a lot of people don't necessarily see those results, right? But it captures your attention, and that's really part of it too. Then the big one is FOMO, fear of missing out, and this is very popular these days. Getting people to get on the bandwagon, and just because everybody else is doing it, you don't want to miss out on it. And so I know there are a lot of people stood in line for the next generation iPhone, and I think it's the PS5. I don't follow that, but I think the next one in line is the PS5, and people are clamoring to get that. I guess it works better than the PS4 or 4.5, but everybody has to have it, right? And that is an easy way to sell a product. All right, so as we wrap up, because I do want to have a few minutes for questions, action items, as I promised. So the first thing you want to do is just get a better handle on your finances. Cash flow analysis, think about product pricing, evaluate your product offerings, and always increase your capacity to borrow, because that's really how businesses grow. You need money to grow. In terms of operations, measurable, achievable goals, incorporate more technology, maximize the efficiency of your processes. Marketing, you probably want to just go back and revisit your marketing, right? If you don't have a marketing plan, develop one. If you have one, I'm sure it's outdated. Look at the return on investment of your marketing activities. Large businesses spend a ton of money on marketing. I think Anheuser-Busch spends, hundreds of millions of dollars on marketing. And that's really important to them, right? And I'm sure they understand where that money is going and how does it affect sales. And then also connect marketing to sales, right? Don't let those two kind of fall apart, but you have sales goals. Make sure your marketing is set up in a way to help you achieve those sales goals, to help you get to those people. And then your sales goals should really be about how do you get them to buy, right? And that's, shifting the energy to sales activities. Why are they purchasing your products? Or why aren't they purchasing your products? And then fine-tune the value proposition and really know what your appeal to the customer is. Because you may think it's something they want, but it could be something totally different. And some of the examples the example I use with McDonald's, it's like, now the customers don't necessarily want the best hamburger. They want service and the quick service. And that's the appeal, and that's what keeps them in business. And then my last tidbit for everybody involved, just use all the available resources. I mentioned this earlier. You do have your SBDCs, you have your MBDCs, you have BACP, you have a lot of the other small business support service organizations. Find one locally and work with them and to help to get tidbits on growing your business. And then also think about it too. Once you get to a certain size, those organizations are probably not in the position to help you as much as you want. And so start setting money aside to actually pay professionals to help you do some of the work, especially when it comes to the back office, bookkeeping, and some of the financial planning. And so that is it for me in my presentation. So we have some time for Q&A. So I'll be happy to entertain questions right now.
Thank you so much, Shelby. That was extremely helpful, very thorough. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure.
Right. And we are opening it up to questions. If you do have a question, please send it in the chat box to all panelists. We'll do our best to answer them. And the first question is, let's see. How do you recommend that someone evaluates the lifestyle business versus the local or regional vision?
Right, sure. That's a very good question. And really the lifestyle business, and when you look at it, you're saying that if I stop this business, then the business stops, right? And so what you want to do is, and that's one of the dilemmas I'm facing right now with my consulting business. It's like, it's a lifestyle business. I'm working too hard. And so what I did was I started looking at my growth plans and saying, okay, I need to bring on more people, right? And I need to bring on people who have some of the expertise that I have so they can start doing some of the work. And so I partnered with a couple of organization similar to mine that has even some expertise that I don't have, and saying, okay, let's create this partnership where we can come together and we can use our collective resources to reach out to more people. And so now we're looking at it and saying, oh, there's areas that combine, and we can hire people and we can then grow this business. So what you see, if you're starting to think more on, hey, the local, regional level, you're starting to bring people in who are actually helping you. Going from this business owner, right, and working in the business to actually being able to work on the business and grow the business. And so that's where, to me at least, when you start thinking about, moving from that lifestyle to that larger scale business, it really involves scaling up with people and processes.
Oh. This question is in regards to the Paycheck Protection Program. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Small Business Administration is the administrator of the program, but maybe you can answer this question, and it is, can PPP be utilized for a new business as startup capital?
The answer is no, because the Paycheck Protection Program is based on the new round is based on how much your business made or how much you made, because it's to protect paychecks and not to start up businesses. So if you have a business and you have payroll, then they look at it and say, let's look at your average payroll for all of 2020, divide that by 12, multiply that by 2.5, and that's what you're eligible to get. So if you're a sole proprietor, they look at like your Schedule C, what your profit was, and that profit was on Schedule C, divide that by 2, multiply that by 2.5. So in that instance, if you're a startup business, you can't get past that calculation, and that's the qualifier. So no, you cannot use that to start a business.
Great, thank you. And I did post the website in the chat box for the Paycheck Protection Program. If anyone wants to look into more of the eligibility requirements and how to apply, please just click on over to the website.
Great.
A couple people are just commenting what an informative and excellent presentation this was. And how do we contact you, Shelby? I believe you had some contact information on the previous slide.
Yes. Let's go back. All right.
There's the website.
There's the website. And so you can just click on the website and there's a contact us page there.
Perfect. And I'm putting the link of the website in the chat box for everyone.
Yep. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Question is, in terms of scaling, would you recommend having independent contractors as the backbone of your business or keep control in-house?
All right. So that's a good question, and that's a tricky question, because most businesses think that independent contractors is the easy way to go, but there are rules. The IRS have rules that determine who is an independent contractor and who is an employee. So you have to start there first by classifying the work that they do. Is it an independent contractor or is it an employee? Now, so what I do is, and more independent contractors are usually more short-term people or project-based people. So what I have done is, the way our business grows is that you start off on working on, say, a project. You start off project-based. It's an independent contractor. So that allows us to get to understand your work better. And then as we grow, we say, okay, now we can integrate you into more of the work and other projects in the business. And that's when you go from independent contractor to employee. But really, you think about it, independent contractor is really somebody who's doing more project-based work. But if they're coming to the office, they're working for you, you're supplying them computers and, guidance and direction, and no matter how you want to slice it, they become an employee. But just a short answer to your question is that independent contractors is a good way to get good temporary help until you can figure it out. And then you can think about, okay, do we want to continue this relationship on project-based, or do we now want to hire you on as a full-time employee? But I start with contractor and go into employee.
Okay. Another question is, can you recommend marketing books on how to convert sales? So maybe if you just have some general recommendations for marketing books or any other literature that could help with marketing.
Not offhand. So if you send me an email, just contact me through the InUrban website. I could give you some resources for that. And because I also want to we get a little more information in terms of what the business is and things like that, because then we can specify a resource that would help a lot better.
And I do want to note that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Chicago BACP. Another question is, what do you consider a reasonable cost for a website revamp?
That's a difficult question because it actually depends on, how complex you want the website. And it depends on who's doing it. But based on like some of the work that we've done, people can do it for $750 to $1,500 for a pretty simple website. As you start adding like e-commerce components and things like that to it, it becomes a little more complex and more costly. But what I would suggest to people is, as you're looking at it, get recommendations, and at least look at 3 different website designers, look at their products, what they've done, look at their work, and then compare pricing and go with the one that you feel gives you the best value, because sometimes it's not, we get stuck on price. And what ends up happening is we get something cheaper, and then we end up paying 3 times for it.
And we only have time for a couple more questions. So the first question is, which one of the social media platforms is good at getting attention and good ROI? What is your recommendation?
So I very seldom use social media, but I can tell you based on the experiences that I have, it seems like more people get much more traction out of Instagram now than the other social media platforms. It's becoming very popular. But one of the things is social media, you have to stay on top of that because it's so fluid, right? And so what you have to look at is like what fits best for your business as well. And I know like what this Clubhouse is becoming a really popular one, right? And I haven't even figured that one out yet. But so I always just tell people, like, just really think about, start looking at what works for your business. Look at what your competitors are doing as well, because that will tell you they'll give you a lot of information right there, because you would think that in a lot of instances they have already started working on some of this and figuring it out. But just from overall what I've seen is that Instagram has become very popular in terms of the social media platform for businesses.
And we will end with this question that is probably relevant or important to a lot of entrepreneurs is, what are some ways to overcome credit challenges as a business owner looking for startup capital?
So the best thing to do is to speak with someone. Don't go to someone who says, give me, $1,000 or $1,500 and I'll repair your credit. There are a lot of agencies out here, nonprofit organizations that work to help people repair credit. And so I would seek some of those, and you guys may even have, BACP may have some of those resources in Shy Biz Hub. And so I would go to nonprofit organizations who will sit down with you, pull your credit report, and help you go through it and tell you what are the things that you need to do to improve on your credit. And in many instances, you can start by just pulling your own credit report and taking a look at the negative information. They show that first. And so, think about it. Is this stuff, is it correct? If it's not correct, you can certainly dispute it. But in many instances where most people fail is that they have things that they're behind. And so just having the guidance, and once again, that guidance is usually free to help you understand what do you need to do to help get you through that.
Good. So we're unable to answer everyone's questions. Some of them are obviously very specific to the entrepreneur, but Shelby was kind enough to give the website to his business, and there is contact information on the site. So once again, it's InUrbanStrategies.com. Shelby, thank you again for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
It's always a pleasure to have you, and we just love having you here.
Thank you. And I will answer any questions that come through the website. So just shoot them over there, and we'll be happy to answer them for you.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Like I mentioned, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/ChicagoBACP. Shelby, do you have any final words for our entrepreneurs?
I just want to let everyone, wish everyone good luck in growing their businesses. And, it's really tough, but it's doable, and I've seen a lot of people do it. So, and once again, just using all the resources that are available to you is really, really important. And that's where I've seen most people grow, is if you're not afraid to ask for help.
Great. Thank you. So thank you again, Shelby, and thank you, of course, to all of our attendees for joining. Right. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.